Okay, we've just checked the wind. This is the glow-in-the-dark 2016 Flying Scot Regatta hosted by Clinton Lake Sailing Association. For introductions in the boat, in the foreground is my first mate crew, Rachel Bowling, and I am the loose nut to her right, the man behind the tiller. We're in the middle of our pre-start system, if you can call it that. We're setting up for a starboard start, and the conditions at this event were fairly fluky. You'll see a lot of tiller work, keeping the bow down in headers and bringing it up in lifts, micro movements. This is filmed with a GoPro Session camera mounted with a lanyard. Using a lanyard is important, as we've learned. We also decided the course is rather skewed here. To use the most of the lake, the mark is buried in the upper right corner of the lake, and figuring out that skew was important in our pre-start strategy. What you just missed there in the conversation was that we still don't know what the course is, how many times around, so hopefully we'll have someone to show us the way. And that gun was a 1 minute to go. Rachel does a great job here pointing out where all the boats are, while I'm more or less checking the boat speed and making sure we start where we want to start on the starting line. We're both looking out.
You've got a blue boat behind you, you've got Greg and Linda below you, you've got one other boat below you.
And Rachel does a really good job communicating.
You've got a boat coming in. Alright, we've got two boats below you. We've got...
Trim, we're racing. Carve a hole. Trim.
Here's a race cues overlay of our starting position relative to the race committee boat seen there in white, and the protected starting pin to the left of the screen.
Let's get out of here.
We found that race cues gives us a lot of information after racing, and here's a prime example. You can see the boat off to our leeward side is not pointing as high as we are as we leave the starting area. Comparing your boat speed against other boats is one of the tools of the race cues software. About to see the boat go into a header. That's where the camera will pan to the right.
Let's go.
And I want to tack immediately. But Rachel, as our tactician, checks around a little more, makes sure our boat is up to speed, and that we are sure in a header. And as the camera pans further to the right, our bow points further downwind away from the mark.
They're slow and steady. I told you port side over here is headers.
Alright, let's go. Yeah, most of the Lynn just went back.
Still, there's a hole right here.
thing you'll see us do on this beat is maintain a boat balance. We move in the boat as much as we can to, in these puffs, you'll see the boat heels over. We want to keep the boat down as much as possible. Sailing flat and applying Scot is sailing fast. So in the light air, we come in, and in the gusts and the puffs, we lean out. We also get on the vang here a little bit. Just to put a little tension in the leech and keep the boat down, although powered up, and just shifting gears as we depower and then open it up.
We're slow here. We're slow.
We've got another boat. It's out of the frame, but Bruce Kitchen comes in and we end up rolling him, and he pins it right to our hip. And so we're fighting here to stay off his windward side and still make it up the race course with speed. One thing not to miss is here the camera across this upwind leg is panning to the right, so our bow is pointing more upwind. So this is a lifted tack up this leg, and we're staying with this angle the most part here because that's better velocity made good towards the weather mark.
This ain't fast for any of us. Pipe it down. Let's go. Turn in. Close it up. Here we go. Come on.
Port tack, it's a good idea to keep an eye out for other boats. It's a good idea at all times, but that boat that just tacked behind us was yelling starboard to us just to make sure we knew he was there. Never a bad thing to communicate.
Getting a lift, that's not good. Let's go.
So maybe I'll do a video about what we just saw there. I looked up the race course, and to the right of the weather mark, Brian Malgrim, another sailor, was getting a lift. And for us, sailing on the opposite tack, going to that point, he anticipated running into a header. But looking up the race course, he used other boats as wind indicators to tell us, forecast what was to come if we were to keep going that way. And you can see a lot of boats at our stern are still working towards the right side, looking upwind of the race course, and we did not sail under that header. The benefit of which you'll see as we round the weather mark. The unfortunate thing is that we are working more towards a port ley line approach. And the ideal intersection for a port ley line approach is the intersection of a starboard ley line and a 3 boat length circle.
And it looks like
You'll want to review the mark room rules of racing to
Yeah, into the
understand
mist.
why that's important.
and then Ben and Deb right behind him.
I'm really attacking. Free, starboard set. Port set, port set, port set.
Can we go up starboard?
Okay, fine. We can do whatever you want. We're slow here. We're in a bit of a shit.
This is a perfect example of Rachel getting me around the race course, and I changed my mind at the last minute
Let me take that down for you then.
with a smile on her face.
We're gonna be covered here.
Our shit.
So here's a quick reaction to train crew and
Hold the group.
securing a wayward spinnaker
I
sheet
need you to hold the green so it doesn't go any farther.
as we lose it over the bow.
Oh, there.
Yeah, it's underneath the
Yeah,
boat.
get it. Snake it up. Come on, baby. Feed it around the keel. Come on. Got it.
Hey, don't pull it up yet.
We were a little late on the hoist. By jibing early and with the skewed course, we were able to sail in clean air the entire downwind leg without jibing. Additionally, 3/4 the way down this leg, the wind shifted
Where?
further abeam, which allowed us to run even hotter to the downwind mark.
I got it. I got green.
All right. Let's just pick up a bit of this shit.
Can you sail?
Trying to. The wind's right in our face.
Shifting. Shifting.
Turn it down.
I don't think it surprised many folks, but if these boats behind us had sailed off to starboard for some time and then died, they may not have been able to reach the downwind mark on a port jibe while on port because the wind came abeam and so far forward. Early planning for the downwind leg, even if you can find the offside,
There's a boat coming up.
paid off for us here.
Shifting. Okay.
Forward down, go quiet.
Okay, boards down.
Take down. I'll fly it. Just
Better?
Alright. Get it. I got it inside, Frank.
So here we
Go. Go.
Here we communicated with the boats around us that we had inside mark room, and in the race cues screen on the left you can see us approaching the right gate looking upwind and heading back over to the right side of the race course to find those headers on port deck so we get the lifts on starboard deck.
Alright.
Get going.
Alright, we're behind. Ryan, take you over there. We're almost to the line that they took. We're just thinking
I
about
want
it.
to go before me. So here we have a clean one.
How's that feel?
Get in. Tack away. What's this? Let's see what this says. Oh, baby.
Alright, Frank, ready to tack away? Much?
Sounds kind of shoes.
Get back.
They're on starboard then?
Yeah. Frank is there again, not?
That area.
Another call? Is that a header? Alright, we got a downwind boat. It's jive.
Up this leg, there were a lot of more shifty conditions, headers and velocity changes. So you'll see that main sheet come in and out, and you'll see us balance a lot as moving out and coming in. And in overpowered conditions, we get a little bit on the vang here as well. So that's all upwind, keeping the boat flat, keeping the bow down, and keeping boat speed. Those are all things you got to do to maintain your speed.
We're headed. I'm looking for an opportunity to tack.
Another thing that Rachel's doing a lot is telling me where our competitors are.
We're headed. We're slow.
I'm really not looking around. My main job is to watch the jib and drive the boat, keeping boat speed and keeping the boat moving.
Moving across.
It's not until we make a decision that we need a joint opinion to make the decision to tack. And again, we find ourselves on a port approach to the windward mark in a short parade of starboard ley line boats.
Too much?
It's just really stupid. I can't really look around. Every time I do, I look up and pinch and I'm missing a lift.
Alright, well, every boat close to us is on port.
Okay, good.
Alright, Kitchens and Benedum are the closest boats.
Below us, when they tack, I need to know about it.
Okay.
There's a little bit header. What's this puff doing?
Looks like it's pointing higher.
No? I mean, or are we just trying to cover? We're slow here.
We just took a few headers coming across this port approach, but we've got starboard boats we need to avoid, and we're struggling to lay the weather mark when we tack. So here we're just trying to find our hole
Benedum
to
are
get
going.
in
I mean, we're
and
Benedum.
looking for that
Kitchens
opportunity
are on the ley line.
to turn upwind.
So above Benedum, and we'll be on the ley line. Okay? Too tight?
Alright.
Alright, keep the insurance. Because of the shiftiness.
You alright, man?
So Rachel referred to as insurance. We've overstood on this starboard line, but I didn't want to tack before leeward of Ben Williams, the boat to our leeward side. But I also felt bad tacking on him as we approach this starboard line.
What do you think, at port? Okay. You get a bit of room?
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Got it?
Yep. Time it. Sign out.
Alright, green side's out. Ready?
Gypsy is on the wall there,
Alright, board halfway.
Here you might have caught that Rachel set the board at about halfway up. And again, because
Okay, I got green.
we've got basically a beam to a beam reach running downwind to this weather mark, and it's not until the wind shifts a little more aft that beam goes out and full comes back. But for the most part, we're on a beam, more or less,
Great shift.
on this run.
Pull back.
I'm letting it out. That's it.
The wind is straight dead down. You got it. You're doing it. Bring everything up a little bit. Okay. Pressure.
All right. That's the curl right there. Curl. 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 Collapsing.
Pull back, pull back, pull back.
Yeah.
Come out.
That's the curl right there. Curl. It's collapsing.
Okay, board down.
All right, you ready?
Pull off. Don't worry, give me that. Pull off.
Pull off.
I'm gonna put my toes up on that one. I need that chute down. Rachel?
Yeah. All right, ready?
classic mistake here as we were looking around trying to find our way up the race course and where we were. I had drifted down and was no longer pointing where we needed to be pointing. So that when we did tack, we tacked through a very wide angle and it did not feel good.
We let him go here or what? We're headed in. We're headed. Let's go. Here's the dust over here. Dust. Crank right. Watch.
Don't go down.
Rachel,
Okay.
I have to. It's a short-lived one, okay? Good. All right. Keep it flat. Velocity shift.
We got Ben and Deb on port. Marianne went higher. Wind's letting off.
Flat. Here's that little guy. Okay, we're fast.
Alright, Frank and Marianne are still there. Yeah, but you see,
Wait, if you didn't understand all
you see kitchens?
no.
They had to tack back. Alright, there's a pup coming in from this side.
So look.
Frank and Marianne are in it. Kitchen's been above them. We do have Frank and Marianne right here coming in with full speed.
Here we've turned on the race cues in the right hand side here. That's the two finishing marks, one on either side. And as we tack back, we're on port as Frank and Marianne in 6060 are also approaching. So all we need to do is lee bow or cross them to finish. And there they go.
That was fun.
Test. Test. Testing 1, 2, testing.